You're watching Euronews now. I'm Takumbo Salako with your top stories. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky pushes for more sanctions against Russia as he prepares to plea his country's case to become an EU member at tomorrow's Council summit. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops claim they've inflicted significant damage on Russian forces in a new attempt to retake Snake Island in the Black Sea. Also in the programme, already starved of food and international support, Afghanistan is dealt another devastating blow as an earthquake claims hundreds of lives.
Luxembourg's Prime Minister Xavier Bettel became the latest high-ranking official to visit Ukraine, after the leaders of France, Germany, Italy and later the UK travelled to Kyiv last week. Nothing can convey the horror of what's happened here, Bettel later commented on social media. The visit comes ahead of Thursday's European Council summit, where Ukraine is hoping to be made an official candidate for European Union membership. President Zelensky took to Twitter to reveal he'd had numerous phone calls with European leaders, including Ireland's Micheál Martin, Spain's Pedro Sanchez and Denmark's Mette Frederiksen, to mention but a few. EU ministers are expected to green-light Ukraine's EU candidacy, which would be a significant symbolic morale booster for the war-torn country. Tuesday also saw an unannounced visit to Ukraine by the US Attorney General Merrick Garland. He joined Kyiv's Prosecutor General, Irina Venediktova, and pledged to help prosecute war crimes committed since the Russian invasion in late February. Nearly 4 months into the war, and Kyiv says it's identified thousands of suspected cases.
Well, as the EU prepares to grant candidate status to Ukraine, and there's even talk of a 7th sanctions package against Russia, the war continues unabated. I caught up with Russian businessman, former oligarch and Russian exile Mikhail Khodorkovsky. He said the West needs to recognise that trying to negotiate with Vladimir Putin is futile, and the only way this conflict will end is on the battlefield.
I was surprised by Mr. Borrell. He's a European bureaucrat, and I didn't expect such tough words from him. But he said some correct words, in fact, that this issue of Ukraine won't be solved around a negotiating table, but on the battlefield. Of course, we will have negotiations at the end of this war, but first of all, this conflict will be solved on the battlefield, and there's no alternative to that.
And that was Russian businessman and former oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky speaking to me, urging Western countries, in particular NATO countries, to step up the military support of Ukraine, otherwise risking the war spilling over. And you can catch that interview on Global Conversation, our flagship interview show, this Thursday evening on Euronews.
Ukrainian forces claim to have launched an attempt to retake the Black Sea's Snake Island, captured by Moscow at the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The outpost became a symbol of Ukrainian resistance after a radio exchange went viral at the start of the war, in which Ukrainian soldiers used an expletive in response to Russian demands they surrender. In a post on Facebook, Ukraine's Military Southern Operational Command said it had used guided missiles with the use of various forces on the island. There was no mention if the mission had been successful. In contrast, Russia's Ministry of Defense claims to have rebuffed what it called a mad attempt by Kyiv forces to retake the island. It said drones and howitzers had been fired, but all had been intercepted. Besides its symbolic value, the island is also strategically important, being located off the coasts of Ukraine and Romania. Elsewhere, and the situation on the front line remains extremely difficult, according to the governor of Luhansk. Russia appears to have gathered almost all of its forces to storm the settlements near the embattled city of Severodonetsk. Kyiv troops are facing constant shelling as Russia intensifies efforts to take control of the eastern Donbass region. On Tuesday, Russia captured the frontline village of Toshkivka.
Hundreds of people are reported to have been killed in an earthquake in eastern Afghanistan. Many hundreds more are thought to be injured. Images circulating online showed destroyed stone houses, with residents picking through clay bricks and other rubble. The 6.1 quake struck in the remote province of Paktika, near the border with Pakistan. The European Seismological Agency said the strong tremors were felt over a range of 500 kilometres. Footage from the region showed victims being carried into helicopters to be airlifted out of the area. The director of the state-run news agency Bakhtar wrote on Twitter that 90 houses have been destroyed and dozens of people are believed to be trapped under the rubble. Observers say the withdrawal of international forces from Afghanistan is likely to reduce the efficiency of rescue and relief efforts.
Late on Tuesday, Italy's Foreign Secretary Luigi Di Maio announced his decision to leave the Five Star Movement to form his own political group to support Italy's Prime Minister Mario Draghi. His decision was taken after weeks of tensions and divisions within the movement itself between two opposite sides of the movement with opposite views over the war in Ukraine. One that was represented by Luigi Di Maio, who's been backing Italy's Prime Minister Mario Draghi, and the fact that his government is very much in line with EU and NATO policies, and another one that is represented by former Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, who's also the leader of the Five Star Movement, who's been arguing that the Italian government should stop sending further shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Now, tensions have in fact emerged in the past few weeks over the need to approve a parliamentary resolution on the war in Ukraine that was later approved on Tuesday after all political parties found a compromise, and that followed Mario Draghi's address over the war in Ukraine ahead of the next EU Council meeting, in which he highlighted the need for the Italian government to continue to support Ukraine. Now, according to reports in the Italian media, Di Maio's role as a foreign secretary is not at risk for now, following his historic decision to leave the Five Star Movement. Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Ade da Costa was just an ordinary boy on the tiny island of Maio. Like many Cape Verdeans, he wanted to be a musician. Now he's got a professional career in Spain.
When Bana, Cesaria Iboria, Il Dolobo started to play on international stages and make a name for themselves and take Cape Verde's name further away from our borders, all Cape Verdeans, men and women, wanted somehow to become singers and tell our stories, because we're islanders. It's just our way to connect with the world.
Music is more than a passion in Cape Verde. It's also a way to make a living. It's thought 25% of jobs in the archipelago are related to music and the performing arts. The Atlantic Music Expo is connecting them with the international markets. Here in Praia, record labels and producers from all over the world are scouting for the next big artists that will hit the international music charts.
The Atlantic Music Expo is of great importance for Cape Verdean musicians, but also for producers and for all of the music industry of Cape Verde. It is their contact with international music, but also their opportunity for international attention.
As they have done for decades, Cape Verdean musicians continue to influence and inspire others today. Artists are incorporating their experiences as members of the diaspora with a Cape Verdean background.
My trajectory with music is more on the Afrobeat influence because I also lived in the United States. I listen to world music in general, but I feel like my mission is to just sample as much as I can and use traditional music, but with the modern twist.
Music is said to be Cape Verde's biggest export, greater even than fishing. But as performers make a career abroad, the challenge is how to retain the benefits of their talent. The Cape Verdean Music Society fights to keep the property rights in the island.
It's fair that they pursue an international career, but also to return to our home. We don't necessarily have to migrate. We can keep residing in our own country.
Abroad or here at home, Cape Verdeans will never stop playing because music is part of their soul. In Praia, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
We've still got a lot more to come on the programme. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few moments after this break.